So after 4.5 years, I am beyond excited to finally announce that my book, Photographing the Night Sky, is available for pre-order. We're printing in July and we're going to start shipping in August. Head on over to photoview.com to place your order now. All pre-orders will be signed by myself, but then once we start shipping the books in August and it's published, I will no longer be able to sign the books. There's also a little bit of a discount for the pre-orders as well. There's also a limited edition 1000 print run of hardback covers. So the softbacks will be unlimited print run, but the hardbacks are going to be 1000 limited edition. The book is a 25 by 25 centimeter book, so it's pretty big. And there's over 570 pages. I went a little bit hardcore. That's actually the maximum number of pages we can have with a good binding on the book. When I grew up, I didn't have smartphones and tablets and broadband internet. I was obsessed with encyclopedias. I loved that you could flip them open to a random page and learn something, or flip open to a page when something relevant popped up that you needed to learn about. I also loved the inspiring images and the beautiful graphics that they would have to explain things. And so that's massively been the inspiration for my book. It is the encyclopedic guide to landscape astrophotography. So there's tens, if not hundreds, of my images in there, but there's also images from over 120 other photographers. So it's an absolute pleasure for me to be able to share the work of others who have inspired me, but also to have different editing styles in the book as well, because the way I edit my images is not right or not wrong. It's what I think looks good to me, so it's nice to have different styles in there. So thank you to all of the photographers who have contributed to this book. It's also full of stunning graphics which we had specially made for the book, and I was really nervous in finding a graphic designer, because not only did I want somebody who produced clean, stunning, aesthetically pleasing graphics, but I also wanted somebody who had at least a basic knowledge in astronomy, so that they understood what I was trying to portray and we weren't going to be playing email tennis. But I needn't worry, because we found Simon from Little Fire, who made these incredibly stunning graphics way beyond my expectations. And when we first met Simon via Zoom during the pandemic, he had already made a 3D model of the solar system on his computer. The sun was a light source and he could angle it any way we wanted, and the sun would light up the planets and the moon in the right way. The planets and the moon were all created from NASA data. As soon as we finished the call, I said to Mick from PhotoView, give him all the money he wants. We need this guy to make the graphics for the book. And I'm so glad he did, because they look incredible. Another person that was a pleasure to work with and who has made this book look so professional is Nathan from Rider Designs. He did the layout, made sure all the font sizes are correct, make sure the images are aligned properly, all of the captions, the page numbers, the indexing, the contents, the color space of the images so that they print correctly, and just all of these details and little things that just go towards making the book a pleasure to pick up and dive into and flick through and find things, and just making sure that everything is perfect, and it just looks so great. So onto the chapters. The first chapter is the equipment chapter, because if you don't have the gear, then you can't photograph the night sky. So we look at cameras, astro-modified cameras, lenses, what makes a good lens, filters, tripods, heads, star trackers, head torches, intervalometers, everything you can think of that you need for landscape astrophotography. After that comes the settings and technique chapter. So once you've got the equipment, you need to know about the settings and the technique of setting up the camera. So we look in detail, like too much detail, of the aperture, the ISO, the shutter speed, the long exposure noise reduction, the high exposure noise reduction, all of the settings in the camera, and then all of the techniques like focusing on the stars and setting your camera up for use at night. In that chapter, I guide you towards working out what is your base astro settings. These are going to be the best settings for your camera and your lens. And then throughout the book, we look at scenarios where you might change those settings. So you will start with your base astro settings, and then depending on what you're shooting or what time you're shooting or whether the moon is out, we look at how you adjust those settings logically. Once you've mastered single exposure landscape astrophotography, it's time to move on to the next chapter, multi-exposure techniques. So we're looking at stacking for noise reduction, tracking the sky with the star tracker, panoramas, multi-row panoramas, 360 by 180 degree panoramas, taking a long exposure for the foreground, focus stacking, maybe I mentioned that already, but all of the techniques where you could take multiple exposures to improve the aesthetic quality of your images and overcome the limitations of a single exposure. The next chapter is navigating the night sky, which is a crash course in basic astronomy. So you'll learn about the motion of the stars, the planets, the moon, retrograde motion, what are constellations, what are asterisms, how you can learn the constellations, how you can star hop between bright stars so that you can navigate the night sky and make sense of what you're seeing. After that, we get into the planning chapter, which looks at things like the twilight times, how to work with the moon, light pollution, how that affects your image, finding compositions, composing your image, and all of these things you need to know to plan your night out and get the most out of a night with clear skies that you possibly can. The next chapter is the meat and bones of the book. I think it's about half of the book, and it's called Night Sky Wonders. We look at all of the things that you can find in the night sky which you can capture with a basic camera and lens. So we've got the stars, the asterisms, constellations, we've got solar eclipse, lunar eclipse, meteor showers, the Milky Way, all of the regions of the Milky Way, 6 different Milky Way arch panoramas that you can do, lightning storms, red sprites, blue jets, gigantic jets, all of those transient luminous events, and even nature at night, things like bioluminescent plankton and fungi, glowworms and fireflies. There's just so much packed into this chapter. And we also look at how you will adjust the base astro settings for all of those things. Next up is the locations chapter, which is a rough guide to the best places in the world, as well as those that have been certified by the International Dark Sky Association. The chapter has stunning maps, which again were made by Simon using actual satellite data of the light pollution on Earth and then projected onto these spheres which he made. They are just absolutely beautiful. And the chapter is full of inspiring images from all over the world, and I hope it will help to inspire you to plan your next astro-related adventure. The final chapter is post-processing, and we look at things like Lightroom, DxO Pure Raw, the Nik software like Color Efex Pro 4. I go over a workflow in Lightroom, in Color Efex 4, loads of Photoshop tricks like removing hot pixels, blending the sky and foreground when you have a tracked image and an untracked foreground, and much, much more. I am so excited right now. It's been 4.5 years, like a black cloud over my head, just constantly chipping away and creating this book. As for the shipping, so for the EU, it's an extra £20. For the US, it's an extra £30. This is a bit of a consequence of it being such a beast of a book, and it's quite heavy. So the international shipping is quite expensive. The EU orders, the pre-orders, will be shipped from within the EU, so you won't have any import duties or tax. However, after August, once we've published the book, they will be shipped from the UK, and there might be import duties and tax on EU orders. So if you're in the EU, I highly recommend you put your pre-order in to avoid any extra costs. Oh, I'm so excited for you guys to get your hands on this book, to hold it, to touch it, to see it, to learn from it. So head on over to photoreview.com and place your pre-orders now. Thank you guys for listening to all of this information, and if you're going out to enjoy the night sky anytime soon, I wish you good luck and clear skies.